Hello. Welcome to my critique of the video called The Kalam Cosmological Argument. Inside of his video, the video maker makes several arguments both against the Kalam argument and against the existence of God. The person to the right of me will be presenting the video maker's arguments in the form of questions. So, let's get started.
Don't subatomic particles, like virtual particles, come into existence uncaused?
Subatomic particles do not come from nothing. When a physicist says that virtual particles come from nothing, they are using the term nothing in a philosophically naive way. Nothingness, in quantum mechanical terms, means the quantum vacuum. And the quantum vacuum is a sea of fluctuating energy. As such, virtual particles and other subatomic particles come from something.
All right, but why does the cause of the universe have to be God? Couldn't it have been some other natural process that produced the universe?
The universe is all matter and space-time. Thus, if there was a cause of the universe, by definition, it would be supernatural, or, in other words, beyond the physical world. The only way that this wouldn't be the case is if a multiverse existed. However, positing such a multiverse has many scientific issues that I don't have enough time to go into. Maybe I will explore these issues if the video maker would like to pursue them further. Nonetheless, the arguments against an actual infinite would make the invocation to a multiverse irrelevant. The video maker didn't respond to any of those arguments against an actual infinite. Anyway, if the universe did have a cause, why must this cause be God? Well, as the cause of matter, time, and space, this cause must have been beyond matter, time, and space. Thus, the cause of the universe is immaterial, timeless, and spaceless. Because causal relations only happen while time exists, this cause must have been uncaused and beginningless. I will also argue that this being must have been a mind. Dr. William Lane Craig gave a really good argument for thinking the cause of the universe is a mind. Dr. Craig writes, moreover, I would argue, it must also be personal. For how else could a timeless cause give rise to a temporal effect like the universe? If the cause were a mechanically operating set of necessary and sufficient conditions, then the cause could never exist without the effect. For example, the cause of water's freezing is the temperatures being below 0 degrees centigrade. If the temperature were below 0 degrees from eternity past, then any water that was around would be frozen from eternity. It would be impossible for the water to begin to freeze just a finite time ago. So if the cause is permanently present, then the effect should be permanently present as well. The only way for the cause to be timeless and the effect to begin in time is for the cause to be a personal agent who freely chooses to create an effect in time without any predetermining conditions. For example, a man sitting from eternity could freely will to stand up. Thus, we are brought not merely to a transcendent cause of the universe, but to its personal creator. End quote. In conclusion then, if the universe had a cause, then the cause of the universe was a personal agent whose creation was beginningless, timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. Furthermore, because the cause of the universe created all energy in the universe, the cause of the universe was probably very powerful. In conclusion then, we can uncover many theologically significant attributes of the cause just by analyzing it.
Okay, but God must have at one point decided to create the universe. If so, there was a previous state where he didn't decide to bring the universe into existence. Therefore, his thought began to exist. Because God's thought began to exist, it follows that God's thought must have had a cause. Thus, God cannot stop the infinite regress. What do you have to say to that?
I think you are attacking a straw man version of the Christian conception of God. God, being omniscient, never actually decides anything. Rather, he wills things from eternity past. God never began to decide to create the universe, rather he willed to create the universe from eternity past.
Fine. But how can God have been the cause of the universe if one of his properties, namely omnipotence, is paradoxical? For example, can God create a stone so heavy that he cannot lift the stone?
Good question. That is the infamous omnipotence paradox. Anyway, this argument too attacks a straw-man concept of God that the Christian community never accepted. There are limitations to God. For example, the Old Testament tells us that God cannot lie. This is because God is morally perfect and thus cannot do the logical incoherent, that is, violate his own nature. The doctrine of God's omnipotence is that God can actualize any possible state of affairs. So, making a stone so heavy that God cannot lift is not a possible state of affairs, therefore, it is outside the power of God's omnipotence to do that. If you disagree with me on the definition of God's omnipotence, and you think that God can do the logically impossible, then the omnipotence paradox still fails. This is because God now can make a stone so heavy he cannot lift. Either way you wish to define omnipotence, the Christian view or the other, neither view ails one to conclude that omnipotence is an impossible attribute for a being to have.
But how can God, namely an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing being, exist while evil exists?
Ah, yes. The classical problem of evil. Here, the videomaker asserts that evil and God are logically incompatible. As a proponent of the logical problem of evil, you must demonstrate that it is logically possible for God to have created a world with free creatures where the creatures always choose for the good. As long as it is even possible that God could not have actualized a world where free creatures never choose evil, or a world where there are more people saved than in a world with less evil, then there is no contradictions between the statements, God exists and evil exists. Furthermore, I will argue that evil proves God exists. For on atheism, objective moral values do not exist. When I say objective moral values, I mean moral values that are true independent of whether or not people believe in them. Philosopher of science Michael Ruse explains, morality is a biological adaptation no less than our hands and feet and teeth. Considered as a rationally justifiable set of claims about an objective something, ethics is illusory. I appreciate that when somebody says, love thy neighbor as thyself, they think they are referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction, and any deeper meaning is illusory. End quote. On atheism, objective moral values do not exist. So, objective moral values cannot exist without God. If you think things like rape, torture, and child abuse are really evil, then you imply that objective moral values exist. But, if objective moral values cannot exist without God, and indeed they do exist, then it follows that God exists. So, paradoxically, evil proves God exists. There were a few more objections brought forward in the video I am responding to, but I think this is good enough for now. Thank you for watching.